ADOS community, here comes Symone Sanders again. You remember Symone Sanders, the one that said that black men need to shut up and not express their political opinions? Remember when Uncle Luke criticized Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor? She responded by saying that black men need to shut up and not express their opinions politically. That's Symone Sanders. The same Symone Sanders that worked for Bernie eyeing for reparation Sanders campaign. That's Symone Sanders. Now she works for Biden, the man that created mass incarceration in the black community. The number one issue in the black community, Biden created. And she works for this man. She works for his fucking campaign. We all know that she's a fucking sellout. And Biden created and contributed to mass incarceration through that 94 crime bill that he wrote himself and that Bill Clinton signed into law. So now Symone Sanders is defending Biden and that bill. She was interviewed on CNN. I'm going to play a clip of the interview and I'm going to provide brief commentary. Bear with me while I cue it up.
Made the problem worse.
Bear with me. I'm queuing it up now.
Talk about this. Symone Sanders, senior advisor to the Joe Biden presidential campaign. Symone, hello to you.
Hello, Victor. How are you?
Very well, thank you. First, obvious question. You were the 2016 national spokesperson for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Why are you now on Team Biden?
Well, look, I think Vice President Biden is going to show everyone today exactly why I decided to join the campaign. Look, we are in a fight for the soul of this nation.
Let me stop her right there. That was an excellent question. She worked for Bernie Sanders. Bernie eyeing for reparation Sanders. How you go from working for Bernie Sanders and now you working for Biden? How do you go from Bernie Sanders to Joe Biden? She's only doing it for the bag. She don't give a fuck about the soul of the nation. She don't give a fuck. She's only doing this shit for money. That's all. And then she talks about, oh, we're fighting for the soul of the nation. Why are we fighting for ADOS issues? Why are we fighting for a black agenda? Why aren't you going in there and demanding that Joe Biden comes up with a black agenda specifically tailored for our community? Why don't you do that instead of speaking this bullshit?
And I believe that this is a pivotal point, just not in American history, but in the world history. We have to make a decision about who it is that we want to be, where it is we're going to go. And I believe that Vice President Biden has the right vision to take us there. So I'm very excited to be on Team Biden. I'm excited to be here in Philadelphia, Victor. Okay, we are kicking off officially our campaign today. And I really think what you're going to hear from the Vice President is a bookend on these themes that you've been hearing from us since he first announced that he is running.
All right. I don't have much time with you, and I wanted to get that out of the way because I'm sure the viewers have that obvious question. But let me talk about the vice president here. And we heard from Senator Harris in that piece from Arlette about her refuting a claim that the vice president made this week that the 1994 crime bill that he wrote did not contribute to mass incarceration. I want you to listen to former President Bill Clinton. This is President Clinton, who signed that into law in 2015.
I signed a bill that made the problem worse. And I want to admit it. In that bill, there were longer sentences. And most of these people are in prison under state law, but the federal law set a trend. And that was overdone. We were wrong about that.
President Clinton says that they were wrong about that. Senator Harris has said that it contributed to mass incarceration. Why is it Vice President Biden admitting what we're hearing from the former president?
Well, look, I think we can go back to Vice President Biden's comments at the National Action Network breakfast in January, where he noted that the crime bill, by way of this disparity between crack and powder cocaine, trapped an entire generation of people. Look, I think many people will tell you across the country, Victor, black folks included, that the crime bill and the reaction to what was happening in the early 90s.
Let me stop it right there. So instead of holding Biden responsible for him writing that bill, she's bullshitting. Joe Biden is responsible for mass incarceration. His bill that he wrote, that Bill Clinton, you just heard Bill Clinton apologize for how it devastated black families, how it devastated the black community. Bill Clinton was fucking man enough, and I'm not a big fan of Bill Clinton, but Bill Clinton was man enough to admit that it was wrong. But you got Biden running around here saying that he didn't contribute to mass incarceration, that it was only at the state level. No, that bill incentivized states to increase the prison population. And the interviewer, is going to go into that. So instead of her holding Biden responsible, she's bullshitting. See, people like Symone Sanders and Angela Rye and Bakari Sellers and Michael Eric Dyson, they're gatekeepers. They are the enemy of the black community. They're used by the Democrats to manipulate us into voting for them. But we see through the bullshit as an ADOS community. And I'm glad that we woke up. So let me cue this back up.
Look, I was only about 3 or 4, but I'm a student of history. What was happening in the early 90s, the reaction was an overcorrection to a very real issue. But we are going to see some policy rollouts from our campaign very soon, Victor. I know folks have questions about what is Vice President Biden's criminal justice policy.
Is it now
those are going to come.
Now the campaign's position that the crime bill did contribute to mass incarceration?
Victor, I think the vice president, his comments speak for themselves. What is very clear is
his comment was that it does not contribute to mass incarceration. The former president who signed it said
look, Victor, if we play the whole clip, what he also said was that the majority of folks that are incarcerated were incarcerated at the state level.
And there's a reason for that. Let me put up the Truth in Sentencing and Sentence here.
And I mean, there is a reason for that.
There's a reason. Let me put it up. Let me put it up on the screen, guys. The Truth in Sentencing section of the 1994 crime bill. This is page 21. It incentivized. It offered billions of dollars to build new correctional facilities if states would increase the percentage of convicted violent offenders, increase the average.
Let me stop it there. So this brother, the interviewer, checkmated her. You hear her stumbling and fumbling and trying to overtalk him. He came with receipts about how Biden's racist crime bill disproportionately destroyed the black community. And I'm going to read exactly what he's reading. So the source is the 1994 Truth in Sentencing grants. Okay? So it says that the 94 crime bill has increased the percentage of convicted violent offenders sentenced to prison, has increased the average prison time which will be served in prison by convicted violent offenders sentenced to prison, has increased the percentage of sentence which will be served in prison by violent offenders sentenced to prison. So it incentivized state prisons to prolong the sentencing. And we know how black men are given more harsher sentencing than their white counterparts. So the bill gave the states cover to do so. It incentivized that. So that's what he's going into. And I'm going to go ahead and cue this back up.
Prison time, increase the percentage of the sentence was there. Did this bill not incentivize putting more people in jail and keeping them there longer?
Victor, I am not going to sit here and tell you the crime bill was perfect. There was some really great preventative things that it did. It took on the NRA, and then there was an overcorrection. What you're describing was an overcorrection. There was a reach. Some folks went too far. The bill wasn't perfect. Republicans fought to put a lot of things in that bill. Democrats fought to get a lot of things out of the bill. But at the end of the day, Victor, at the end of the day, no one is suggesting that what has happened, what has ravaged communities over the last 27 years does not need to be fixed. No one is suggesting that there is not a real issue, there's not a real problem or a real issue. And I'm here to tell you that Vice President Biden will roll out, you'll see a criminal justice policy soon. We are going to continue to have this conversation about the crime bill. throughout the campaign trail. But we're also going to put forward some policies, Victor. So just wait and see. Give us a minute. Wait and see.
We will look forward to those. Symone Sanders, thanks so much.
So there you have it, everyone. Symone Sanders, we all know that she's a fucking coon and a fucking sellout. That she's not going to tell the truth. That Biden's 94 crime bill contributed to mass incarceration. They incentivized state prisons to lengthen, the sentencing, and the incentive was that they would fund them by doing so. Biden is responsible. If you guys think that Biden is going to do something for the black community, if you think that he gives a fuck about the black community, you are sadly mistaken. Joe Biden does not give a fuck about black people. Joe Biden doesn't care about you. He locked up so many black men that are still locked up today. Think about all of the black men that are languishing in prisons because of Joe Biden. And he gets to live an old age and run for president. Meanwhile, your daddy's locked up. Your cousin's locked up for minor drug offenses because of Joe Biden and that crime bill. So that's all I got to say. Like I said, we know Symone Sanders a fucking sellout. And she don't care about the black community. Her, Angela Rye, Bakari Sellers. You seen Angela Rye criticizing Minister Farrakhan, but then defends Joe Biden, the man that created mass incarceration in the black community. They only care about themselves. And that's why ADOS, we got to keep turning up the pressure. Even on Joe Biden's crusty ass. And he's not getting a black vote. None of these Democrats are getting the black vote unless they come up with a black agenda, plain and goddamn simple. But that's all I got to say. Make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe to my channel. Like always, I appreciate all the love. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my views. Have a good evening.